Otherwise, I'm happy to start with a failed investment to motivate you a little bit. I mean, obviously, we are not there yet, but I think with DRC Impact Angels, one of the first investment we did was a bit challenging. By the way, I wouldn't call it like an agri-tech tech ventures, but for sure it was a sort of tech-driven corporate, right, or SME. And it's a scenario where we met with a team quite knowledgeable, quite strong, but I think the investment is much more challenging to follow than we thought, because first of all, working capital is missing. Working capital management is really a skill that a lot of teams don't have on the continent. There are very few banks who actually provide working capital facility for agri businesses. So it's quite important for you as an investor to take that into account. If you back an agri-tech venture who needs to buy a lot of inventories, whether it's raw materials, whether it's equipment, trucks, what else, like you need to make sure that you take that into account. Point number two, this point has been solved as well. I can see that one hand is raised, so I will just raise two other points, and then Mr. Isaac, you will have the opportunity to talk. I think the issue number two, the investment was geographically way too far from us. As I said, agribusiness is a people business more than in any other industry, so it's quite difficult to follow an investment that is located almost like in another country and to follow operations on a daily basis. And now I'm ready to give the voice and the mic back to Isaac. Isaac, please feel free to talk.
Hi, Anna. Thanks for the opportunity, and obviously just sharing in the light of the opportunity that you gave folks. So I'll be quick. The example that I'll share is Farms to You. It operates in Nigeria and Kenya. Invested about 18 months ago. And I'd say very similar to most of my angel investing activity. I think that primarily I focus on the founder, the conviction in what they're building and their story. And for me, her story was compelling, a background and ability to execute just stood out based off of like what she's done like in the corporate world. And was able to back out at an early stage, and she's since, and that was my first agri-tech venture. I'm not particularly close to the agri-tech space, so I didn't really think that I'll be able to add much value. But the goal was to at least support her in that endeavor, because I thought like that was an audacious move coming from Nigeria, where you don't see very many tech founders that are female, let alone a female CEO, and in agri-tech nonetheless. But since investing, she's since gone on to do, the Techstars Accelerator out of Boulder. She's since been backed by Lofty and Catalyst Fund. So there's been good news. Jury's still out on, the ultimate outcome of the investment. But so far, the venture has since grown significantly and has attracted VC funding. And the impact also has been great so far. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Zach, for sharing. Maybe one question on my side. You mentioned that the venture has attracted or started to attract VC funding 18 months after you have invested. So how did you manage to do that? Is this something that you had in mind when you selected the startup at the date of the investment, that in 18 months down the line, VC X or VC B could be interested in the venture? How did you achieve that?
No, so I invested in the venture. I don't own the venture. Aisha Rahim is the founder. But I did know at the time that I invested, if things go well, she was going to get into an accelerator and she was going to be VC backed, because as you said earlier on, food insecurity was a huge issue. The agriculture chain in general, like all the different players in there, it was a bit fragmented. And for me, the most part of what I would say is I think like there was not real best execution from like a supply chain or like linking smallholder farmers, right, to needs. And even though there were some players in there, I felt convinced that there was enough opportunity for 5, 6, 7 players to be in there. And so she had a space, right, in the agri chain, at least in Nigeria. And so the goal for me was to at least like work with her to get our story out. And more importantly, to in the small places where she operated and in the smallholder farmers where she served, that we served them very well, enough that we can use that story to say like, hey, look, we're operating in these areas and we have these success stories. And one of the things that came up when you said weather earlier on as one of the issues, I smiled because that was one of the big wins from FarmC's perspective. Because one of the things we did with the smallholder farmers was to educate them on the need for insurance because of the uncertainties of the weather. And we had a very, very bad, weather situation a couple of months in Nigeria where a lot of crops were destroyed, across farmlands. But for the smallholder farmers that were within the FarmC network, right, they already had insurance, they had coverage because of all of this education and awareness and re-emphasizing of the need to be very cautious even as you're going into planting season and getting the right insurance, right? Because anything can happen.
Great, fantastic. Thank you very much, Isaac, for sharing. It was very, very insightful. I don't know if anyone else would like to share their own experience. Nobody else has raised their hand. So I think, Jeffrey, we could move to the next slide. I'm not sure how we are doing in terms of time, but I just want to make sure that the startups have enough time to pitch. Jeffrey, you're not sharing your screen anymore, or the ABAN admin?
Yeah, just hold on 1 minute. Sorry, it's coming back on.
All right. So question number 2, assessing the character of the entrepreneurs in the due diligence phase. How important do you think this is, and how do you go about assessing the character of the founders? This is a very good question. Anyone who wants to take this one? What type of experiences did you have as an angel investor or as a VC investment professionals or as a corporate when it comes to due diligence with the founders? Isaac, would you like to comment? Okay, so let's go start with Gabon Angel Investment Network. Please go ahead first, and then we'll come back to Isaac.
Hi, Anna. This is Fabrice.
Hey, hi.
I invested in a startup called Legendary Foods. It's not really tech, but they farm lava that they transform into processed food. It's rich in proteins. So it was a completely new sector for me. And I think during the DD, which I didn't lead, I focused a lot on the prior experience of the entrepreneur, a Canadian lady, why she moved to Africa, why Africa, etc., etc. And I was very fortunate to read the name of a friend of mine in her pitch deck. So I immediately called that person to get additional information from about the entrepreneur and to get some intel about who she was as a person, as an entrepreneur.
Great. Thank you very much, Fabrice. This is very insightful. Anyone else who wants to share when it comes to that? I think on my side, if I can share a story when it comes to due diligence, with the Earth Impact Angels, we have invested in a very young pre-seed startup with a young local Congolese team, like 20, 21-year-olds. So we knew that the team was pretty young, but they have very, very strong technical skills, which explained that a few days, literally after we invested and released the press releases, there were already 3 or 4 funds or corporates who were already reaching out to them to see how they could work together, right? And very quickly, for 2 months, we saw how these youngsters, so I would put it on, the lack of sort of professional maturity, which is a bit harsh, but they were so excited that they started to chase all these rabbits. And after 2 or 3 months, they were definitely not achieving what they were supposed to, achieve in terms of milestone. So it took us to have, like a sort of harsh conversation with them to say, look, it's great to have thousands of opportunities, but if you're not capable of converting one of them, then you will not go anywhere. And this conversation has been quite successful. Now they are actually busy applying for an acceleration program with AWS. We are very hopeful that they will be selected, and there are a few other funding opportunities that they are pursuing. And more importantly, they are due to launch their product number 1, hopefully by the end of June. But for me, it was quite interesting to see how we had flagged like a sort of risk when it came to the team, when it came to the youth. I would say of the founding team, even if they were very technical, and that indeed it's a risk that materialized, but we were lucky enough to be able to address it. All right. Anyone else with a story? Otherwise, we'll move to the most important and most interesting part of the workshop, which is the Climate Smart Agriculture Venture Showcase. So we'll have the opportunity to see 3 startups pitched to us. So 3 startups have been selected amongst like 10 or no, actually 21 startups. So well done to them. Now they are in the top 3, but obviously tonight there will be only 1 winner. So it will be quite exciting to see how the story will pan out. So we'll call to the stage startup number 1, Wenzemobile from DRC. Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Yoikielo is here. The stage is for you. Just bear in mind that you only have 10 minutes to present. Fadila, Jeffrey, can you confirm? So the startup has 10 minutes to present, maximum?
No, about 8 minutes, and we'll have another 2 minutes to discuss.
Fantastic. So I suggest you actually stick to 5 to 6 minutes so that the investors can actually ask you questions. So Jeffrey, please feel free to start the timer, and back to you, Yuri.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Great. That's a great pleasure to be here. I'm Yuri, the CEO and founder of Wenzemobile, which is a B2B food marketplace supplying Kinshasa. And I will jump directly to the second slide. So Wenzemobile is addressing the challenges faced by key players operating on the local food supply chain connected to Kinshasa. The smallholder based in the Congo Central, which is a region neighboring Kinshasa, and the retailers in Kinshasa. On the one hand, we have 500,000 smallholders based in the Congo Central, facing challenges to get market access. They find it difficult to find buyers who are reliable and buy on a regular basis and are equipped with the right logistics. On the other hand, 15 million inhabitants in Kinshasa massively buy local products from a multitude of retailers, more than 200,000 operating in outdoor markets, which are called the Wenze. And more and more people in Kinshasa buy from supermarkets. Whether it be the supermarket or the retailers, both are facing challenges to find reliable suppliers who have the capacity to supply a high volume of local products on a regular basis. So we came up with Wenzemobile and offer services to smallholders and retailers. For the smallholders, we buy the product on a regular basis, we build a relation and come with the proper logistics. For the retailers in Kinshasa, we enable them to place order easily via phone call or WhatsApp and get delivered. They can find us on. They also can find us on our point of sale, the physical location. And what you see in the middle is the platform that we're building. It's an internal tool which helps us to monitor the smallholder production and our supply chain. It helps us to optimize our operation. And on the next slide, I will walk you through our achievement. So since the launch in April 21, we've acquired more than 700 customers and more users are trusting our services. To give you a sense of our current growth rates, we have generated last week, in May 23, $2,000 and a weekly run rate, which is 3 times the revenue we were doing in January. And we aim at reaching a $30,000 revenue per month by the end of the year, 2023. Our business model is really simple. The core business line is to sell the product, and we generate a margin from the sales of the product purchased from small orders, a 65% margin, and the goal is to scale, reduce this margin, and distribute more value to the small orders. Next to the food sales, we run a second business line, which is a transport service offered to wholesaler and FMCG distributor. The leadership team is made up of Espoir and myself. We are both from the Congolese diaspora. Espoir graduated with a master in metrology in France, and he has more than 10 years of experience as a senior leader in the food supply chain management and logistics at large corporate in France. And myself, CEO and founder, graduated with a master of international business and management, and I have more than 10 years in leading B2B growth marketing strategies, operation and teams in startup and corporate in Berlin, Paris, and London. And since 2022, we're backed by a local investor, the DRC Impact Angel, as well as the African Business Angel Network through the Catalytic Fund, the Catalytic Africa Fund. And on the last slide, a few words on our ambition. So since inception, the ambition has always been to become a large tech player in the DRC, in the food distribution, local food distribution, to have a huge impact, like Twiga in Kenya. In 21, I launched with my own money, and that year we could raise up to 30K from friends and family. And last year we were backed by the DRC Impact Angel and ABAN, and these with a pre-seed round. And this round helped us to set up the foundation of our logistic platform. We could acquire 2 trucks, and this helped us to build a team based in the production area as well as in Kinshasa. And this year we aim at raising a seed round of 230K, which will help us recruit a strong team with talent to develop the platform, the technology, and reinforce the logistic. In terms of growth targets, the aim is to reach $80,000 revenue by the end of 24 and double it by the end of 25. To reach that goal, our expansion plan is based on 3 pillars: customer segmentation, expansion, the product offering expansion, as well as the geographical expansion. And doing it will help us to reach this goal. And finally, our smart agricultural approach is to help mitigate the climate change while contributing to food security in Kinshasa. This is translated into 2 goals. The first one is to prevent the deforestation by helping smallholders to reinforce their agroforest systems, because the smallholders we are working with are operating from the Mayombe forest, which is in the Congo Central. And secondly, to reduce post-harvest loss by setting up cold storage, giving a logistic answer like ripening chambers to reduce the post-harvest loss. So I thank you for your attention, and I stay available for any question if as of now.
Thank you very much, Yuri, for this great presentation. I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions from the audience. So how many minutes do we have? 4 or 5 minutes? Anyone with any questions regarding the business model of Wenzemobile, the targets, the team, the relationship with the farmers, the customer acquisition strategies when it comes to the retailers? Don't be shy. Okay, we have one question here. I can't see. Please, whoever has raised their hands, please feel free to ask your question.
Hi.
Gabon? Yes, go ahead.
I agree. Very good presentation. I had 2 questions about your interaction with the small farmers and how you help them. And the second, if you can elaborate on your customer acquisition strategy.
Sure. The relation with the smallholders and how we do what with them? Sorry, I didn't hear it.
And if you can elaborate on your customer acquisition strategy.
Yes. So with the smallholders, basically, the way we operate with them is really to give a first service, which is the picking up the product and buying it on a regular basis and bringing the logistic up to their fields. As up until now, the services that we're giving to them is limited to those two services, and it is helping us to sort of increase their sales. And in terms of a customer acquisition strategy in Kinshasa, it is actually for now based on 2 points. One is targeting the small retailers, and those small retailers are selling from outdoor market, and next to those outdoor markets, there are warehouses, and delivering to those warehouses coming on a regular basis is our approach. This audience is sensitive to what they see. Basically, if they see the truck coming on a regular basis, they will stick there. It doesn't make sense to sort of send massive SMS campaign. They are sensitive to what they see. And next to it, as we target the supermarket, our sales team is sort of trying to reach the buyers, the procurement team from supermarkets, and elaborate a specific offer to them. So for instance, when during these days, we're building an offer for one of the Kinshasa supermarket so that they can buy local product via our services.
All right. Thank you very much, Yuri, for answering the question. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Or Fabrice, do you have any additional questions, or do you need any additional information? Please go ahead.
I do, but I don't want to keep the... yeah, Isaac, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'll ask a quick question. Thanks for your presentation. It's very good. In Q4 of 2022, I noticed your revenue dropped, and then, of course, it picked up significantly this year. Was there any change in strategy, business model? Was there churn? If you can talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So actually, what the evolution of our revenue is really linked to our logistic capacities. So it is reflecting the speed at which we are deploying our logistic capacity, and sometimes this capacity is sort of struggling to, for instance, the maintenance. So there is a correlation between our logistic capacity and this growth. So the investment that we could absorb by the end of 22 is now reflected in our revenue in early 23. So we see this evolution, which are correlated with our logistic capacity, because we do have two business lines, as I was saying, the transport as well as the product sales. We are progressively scaling the product, the sales of the product, but for now, transport is still waiting quite a bit in our balance. So we are quite dependent of our logistic capacity. This is why.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for this fantastic question, and where you can see how at the end of the day we can all gamble on technology, but there is still a significant portion of our business and our lives which is linked to hardware, to equipment, to things we can actually touch. So it's interesting to see how not having the right equipment at the right time can also have an impact on the financial performance, regardless of the how great your technological solution might be. Do we have time to take another questions, or do we have to move to the next candidate? I can see Pedro has left us. Bye, Pedro. Can we take another question, Jeffrey? Fadila.
Please go ahead.
All right, so please go ahead. Okay, so is Isaac, I think he didn't, you're still raising your hand. Do we have any other questions?
No, I'm done. Sorry about that.
No problem. Right. So if we don't have any other questions, I think we can move. No, maybe one question on my side. Have you been discussing with any potential VC funds, Yuri? And what was the feedback that you received? What type of VC funds? What are the key metrics that they expect you to reach before receiving a seed funding? Interesting to get your sense of that.
Yes, I've started to have some discussion with VC funds, and well, the key metric that they were looking at is 1 million ARR as a growth target in 24. Basically, this is what we aligned on, and the discussion we were having is about how the capital should be allocated. So the VC are more into investing in the team and the tech, and the assets and the capital allocation to acquire assets is to sort of balance with bank partners, or yeah. So that's what came up with some VCs. So I'm still having discussion with few of them, and hopefully more coming soon.
Thank you very much for this feedback, Yuri, and thank you for a great presentation. So I think we can move to the next candidate. Yuri, please feel free to stay online. Yep. And I will call now to the stand. Sorry if I cannot pronounce the name of your company really well. Ashra? Sorry, guys. Are you on the line? The company whose name is HRVST.
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 Yes.
Okay.
Hrvst. Yes, we are.
Now it sounds like it makes sense. Thank you, Christopher. Thanks, Yuri. You can remove your video and put yourself on mute. And Christopher, the stage is now available for you. You have, I would suggest, 5 minutes to present so that investors can ask you any questions that they have in mind. Please go ahead.
Okay, and can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can see your screen, we can hear you well.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, good morning from wherever you are in the world. My name is Christopher Chlesche. I am the CTO and co-founder of Iponics, or our brand name Hrvst. So Hrvst is on a mission to solve global food insecurity by accelerating Africa's position as the breadbasket of the world. And we have a two-phase solution for achieving this. The first, you can see on your left-hand side of your screen, is establishing a marketplace application that'll allow farmers to connect directly with B2B and B2C consumers. And the goal here is really to actually build a data platform that allows us to understand the current dynamics in the marketplace. It allows us to build a map of where the food deserts and the food oasis exist. And then phase two is deploying a network of urban container farms, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, that will then satisfy the supply gaps identified through the marketplace app. At Hrvst, we're in the business of making a difference, a lasting change, sustainable impact, creating life-altering opportunities. When we think about the stories that have an impact and demonstrate the power of what our platform is doing, there's several. There's not only just one, there's not only many stories, but there's one that stands out in particular, a story that I hope will have a lasting impact on you. The story is about Kendi. She's a farmer from Lusaka, Zambia. Her family owns a farm that raises pigs and grows soybean. It's a small holding that her parents purchased when she was younger. Before Hrvst, Kendi had spent the last year and a half trying to find market for her produce, and it was difficult. She joined Hrvst on October 2022 as one of our founding farmers. And I remember because I personally signed her up. And as we sat in Lusaka, talking about sort of the mechanics of the deal, I remember she was very skeptical. And rightfully so. I mean, we had zero traction at that point, and we were basically just asking her to go by faith. She asked a lot of questions and wondered, is this even going to work? She was very, very hesitant. She was skeptical, but she was willing. She started with just 6 products on her store. And now, with the help of a cohort of other farmers, she has over 50 products listed on her store. She went from making a small fraction of her revenue on the application to a 3,000% increase in just 8 weeks of trading. Her business is booming. She no longer worries about market. Instead, now she focuses on her craft. She focuses on what she loves. She's focusing on carrying on her family's legacy. She's one of those many stories on Hrvst, but there's many, many just like hers. She could be your aunt. She could be your grandmother. She could be your mother. The point is, Kendi is you. She's one of us. And we're proud that she's a member of our platform and can achieve the growth that she's been able to achieve so far. And the interesting thing is, as we talk about kind of this problem in sub-Saharan Africa, we have Africa sitting at 60% of the world, 40% of the world's most arable land, right? So massive capacity. However, sub-Saharan Africa accounts for about 2/3 of the world's food insecure population, acutely insecure population. So how is it that the continent with the capacity to feed the world is unable to feed itself? And what we come to is that it's basically a market failure. It's a question of supply and demand. So on the farmer side, you have logistical hurdles that make it hard to get produce from one location to the other, whether it's poor infrastructure or something similar to that. Then we have the lack of ability to forecast demand. And then, of course, difficulty accessing the actual market. So we have a lot of middlemen. Then on the demand side, same thing. You have a lot of middlemen. You're reliant on someone else to tell you where the supply is. We have a huge import dependency. And then we're basically unable to allocate that supply efficiently. So again, our solution, to reiterate, is 2 phases. The first phase is establishing that marketplace, establishing our data platform so that we can coordinate supply and demand more efficiently and more transparently. Then our second phase, which we will be beginning hopefully in the next several months, is to deploy a network of urban container farms that use aquaponics to help provide stability and availability of crops around the year. And I want to kind of tell you another story that demonstrates that this future is actually not that far away. So this is Abigail. She is a small vendor, a street vendor in Zambia, in Salama Park specifically. She's been in business for about 7 years. And she started with one small table at the corner of the street, and then grew to a full-blown stand with 2 employees. She has an operations channel. She uses a FIFO inventory management system, and she does cost-based pricing, right, and provides leadership and training to her employees. She's an entrepreneur. Her day starts at 3 a.m. and she lives in a shanty town called Mutendere, right? And so she travels from there to Soweto Market, and she arrives there around 4 a.m. in the morning to kind of pick the best produce she can find. And then she travels 16 kilometers to Salama Park, which is about an hour and a half away on public transport, to be able to service her customers. On the bottom right hand of the corner, you can see in green, that's Carol, our Chief Customer Officer, helping her kind of package her goods. So right there, she actually bought 3 kilos of green beans, and she's breaking them up into 500 grams each. The 3 kilos cost her 30 kwacha, and then she broke them up and she charges 10 kilos per 500 grams. So at the end of the day, she'll make 100% return on that investment. And she understands this as a business concept. So what happens if we were able to give Abigail a container farm, right? Now, what if she grows 3,000%? Not only a container farm, but access to the market with that container farm. If she grows 3,000%, unlike Kendi, she's able to satisfy that demand, right, on her own through her own supply capacity. And it's all right there locally. She no longer has to wake up at 3 a.m. She can just open her store at 8 a.m. We've bought her time back as well as increased her ability to make more money. And that's achievable through a $10,000 manufacturing cost, right? 6 to 8 weeks in just-in-time manufacturing. And she can make about $60,000 in revenue over the course of 3 years because of a faster, smarter, and better way of growing. Our goal is...
Christopher, your time is almost up, so you
Okay.
have 2 more minutes.
Okay. Our goal is to disrupt but not displace, and we want to make sure our ecosystem has enough.
I'm so sorry, but I'm going to interrupt you because it's quite important for investors to ask a question.
Sure.
We should make the rule a bit clearer. Maybe just 30 seconds on the traction because it's quite important, and then we'll go back to the investors.
Okay, so we've had a 95% growth quarter over quarter. This is our second quarter. Q1 2023 was our second quarter in operations, and we've had some really huge milestones. We've signed a deal with Zanaco to provide liquidity into our market so that B2B customers can place orders. We have a new major client through Newrest who supplies Qatar and Emirates Airways. And then we've been able to bring together investors who are creating a Hrvst pack house, which will not sit on our balance sheet, to provide some cold chains facilities to improve our supply chain. And so those are some of the major milestones we've hit. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. And now, without any further ado, any investors, do you guys have questions regarding the business model, the track record, the prospects for Hrvst? Any questions, Guy? Otherwise, I'm happy to start. Can you please reconfirm in which geography you are currently operating? I think you're based in Zambia, if not mistaken. And if so, can you talk a little bit about the country risk, currency devaluation, any political shenanigans who can have an impact on your business and how you navigate it?
Yeah, so we are currently located in Zambia, in Lusaka specifically. Zambia, I think most of you know, is quite a stable country. We haven't had any wars really, actually, and the political environment is very, very encouraging right now. We have a new administration who is very pro-business, and we're excited to partner with the existing government to continue to push our solutions. We think it's an exciting time to be in the agri-tech space, as there's a huge focus on that for Zambia as well. So the Ministry of Agriculture is very supportive, and we're in conversations with them about our solution.
Fantastic. Great. Very helpful. Any other questions from the participants? So I guess one other question from my side, obviously this is quite a young business. So for Q1, the level of revenues is $8,000. Why do you feel like the growth of the business will continue to be quite strong? And oh no, sorry, we have a question from Fabrice and from Isaac. So in that order, please go ahead, guys.
Okay.
Fabrice?
Have you already sold one of the food containers that you mentioned?
So we have a prototype that we've built, but we have not yet put those into production, full production yet. And that's actually part of what our fundraising will go towards, is helping establish the manufacturing facilities for building out the containers. But we do have a sort of like pre-orders where we've had a lot of interest, not only from the B2B market, B2C community, but the B2B market. So we have restaurants that have expressed interest in getting those container farms themselves. So we're very encouraged by the demand for it, although we haven't put them into production yet.
How much are you raising?
We're raising $500,000 in a safe.
Okay, thanks.
Chris, fast question. Can you just talk briefly about like how you actually made the revenue? Obviously, very young business, but the revenue is growing pretty fast. But like, where's the revenue exactly coming from, and like what margins that you're charging on, like, you know, the GMV that's passing through?
Yeah. So just one point of clarification: our first quarter of operations was Q4 2022, and we made $4,000. And then our second quarter was Q1 2023, so just last quarter, and we made $8,000, approximately, about 95% increase in revenue. So our revenue is coming from our transaction base, from the transactions on the marketplace. So all of our GMV is charged approximately 7%. We have kind of a sliding scale from 7% to 9%, and we reduce the more GMV you have or the more orders you have through our system, we actually lower your transaction fee. So most everybody has grown to the point where we're just charging an average of 7%.
It's super helpful. Very good take rates. Thanks.
Yeah. And Hannah, I believe you had a question on the revenue as well.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you feel like your growth will be exponential in the next few months? Just a comment on that.
Yeah, so we're super encouraged. Number one, we're tracking a metric called unmet demand cost. So what happens when we're unable to satisfy a demand? What's the cost to us when we're unable to satisfy demand? So basically, these are orders that we've received, but we have not been able to fulfill because of lack of supply capacity. The pack house initiative that I showed you, which, by the way, we're not financing, it's being financed by a third party and we don't own or operate. That's going to be sitting on someone else's books. They were encouraged by the numbers in our business, and that's what caused them to build and create the pack house. They've already registered it and they're under construction. We think unlocking that supply capacity will help us meet our unmet demand capacity, unmet demand cost. And last quarter, it was about $150,000, which means if we had satisfied all the demand, meaning all the orders that we had received, we would have grown 384%. So, the unmet demand cost shows us that we're actually growing much faster than we can keep up with. And so we're having to solve some supply capacity issues to be able to do that. And we don't see that slowing down anytime soon.
Thank you, fantastic. That was a very helpful answer and feedback. So well done to you, Christopher. And now we are ready to move to the last part of the night. Please, Christopher, stay online. And I'm calling now to the stage AgriRevolution. Karin Jacko, please feel free to come to the stage from South Africa based on the names and the number.
Hello, good afternoon, Angels, and thank you for the opportunity to present. Are you able to see us? Oh, great.
We can see you well. We can see the presentation. The timer is on. Go ahead.
Fantastic. You can move on to the next slide for me. Thank you. The World Bank predicts that we will have to feed. Oh, sorry, before we start, this is my father, Chris. He's the inventor of our technology and the co-founder of AgriRevolution. And on my other side, I have my brother Yaku, who is also co-CEO. So the World Bank predicts that we will have to feed 10 billion people by the year 2050. And the FAO estimates that we will need additional agricultural land of twice the size of India to do so, requiring an increase of 56% in food production from what we currently have. In addition, this will mean that agricultural emissions will increase exponentially, unless we can find ways to increase production on existing farmland and to reduce the carbon footprint of farming. So the big question is, how do we feed everyone without harming the planet? And we believe the answer lies in our soil. Plants have almost unlimited potential if given the right soil conditions. But sadly, more than 60% of Africa's soil is depleted, and the rest of the world are experiencing similar issues. But what if there was a tool that enabled farmers to grow more food on less land, and that could at the same time sequester carbon in productive agricultural soil? My father has spent more than 25 years developing and perfecting exactly such a tool. So over the years, he has bootstrapped the development of 4 prior generation machines, and through continuous learning, adapting and improving, he has regenerated, our machines have regenerated hundreds of hectares of soil with incredible results. These years of innovation have culminated in the registration of two worldwide patents that solve the challenges that we experienced with the earlier models. With funding from the Technology and Innovation Agency of South Africa, we were then able to build and test an electrically powered prototype, a machine that is able to cost effectively and energy efficiently create a homogeneous mix of soil up to 1.2 meters deep. A machine that we truly believe will change the way we grow food worldwide. We can go on to the next slide, please. So once it comes up, I would like to introduce you to the earthworm. I wanted to show a little video, but with the lag, I don't think that's gonna work. So I'll put a link in the chat afterwards so that you can have a look on YouTube. Our world-first technology creates a deep, fertile soil environment to foster larger, denser, and deeper root systems that allow plants to produce much bigger volumes and better quality using less water, less fertilizer, less land, and less energy. Our machine can also regenerate soil within existing orchards and vineyards. This maximizes production and extends their productive life, thereby delaying or only eliminating the enormous costs and the multi-year profit losses of having to replant. As you can see on screen, our results speak for themselves, with incredible increases in volume, size, and quality achieved across numerous types of crops. And in addition to putting money back into the pocket of the farmer through yield increases and cost savings, our technology also now provides a world-first means of using agricultural soil as a carbon sink at scale. This will allow farmers to generate additional income through carbon credits. We can move on to the next slide, please. Our commercial model machine will be self-propelled and electrically powered, and it is currently in development. While we currently use a diesel electric generator, our commercial model will also have hybrid and hydrogen fuel cell options. The machine is already equipped with quite a lot of Internet of Things functionality, such as GPS connectivity, real-time data capture, pre-programming capabilities, remote control, all for cutting-edge precision soil management not currently possible. There is no other machine on the market that can do what our machine can do. Our technology is protected by 2 patents, and our market is worldwide. Our market entry strategy is to sell earthworm machines directly in South Africa, and we have already secured pre-orders for the first machines from farmers in the Western Cape. But our goal is to have earthworms throughout Africa and on every continent. And our plan is to scale and expand rapidly through a licensed distribution model. We are already also in talks with the South African government that wants to buy and use these machines for programs to empower smallholder farmers. And we've also been approached by a large nonprofit organization in Europe that wants to use our machines for large-scale agroforestry projects globally. We can move on to the next slide, please. We're currently looking for investors and strategic partners for global commercialization. We are raising a bridge round of 2.2 million in safe notes and a seed round of 11 million USD. The funding will enable us to finalize the development and testing of our commercial model machine, and then also to commercialize globally. So based on our experience, we are confident that we can deliver the first machines within 2 years of securing the funding. We will also use this time to obviously secure more pre-orders and to formalize our relationships with distributors, manufacturers, spare parts providers, and maintenance networks locally, and to then also identify distribution and manufacturing partners and licensees with existing networks elsewhere in the world. Based on current prices and exchange rates and a 35% gross margin, we estimate that the earthworm machines will cost about $1 million each. Our initial revenue streams will be from direct sales in South Africa, as well as license fees and royalties from distributor sales globally. Then we also have.
Oh, sorry, so sorry. Thank you so much, Karine. Right, I will have to stop.
1 minute. 1 minute, I promise. Not even 30 seconds.
All right, but you need to make sure that investors have time to ask you questions. Typically, investors don't like when they can't talk. They like to talk.
So
Okay, go for it. 30 seconds.
Absolutely. Our future revenue streams are many, and we can share our financial model with you under NDA. Please feel free to reach out to us to discuss investment and collaboration. What I wanted to say as the last minute is our slogan, Vusa Mhlaba, means wake up the earth. This is our mission. We invite you to join us. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for this outstanding presentation. And I will now get back to the investors. Does anyone have any questions for Karine and her team tonight? I'm happy to start actually, Karine, and my question will be a bit provocative, but to which extent do you feel like your company can be defined as a tech venture? Like, how do you think you have this ability to scale exponentially, to acquire new customers quickly without increasing the cost linked to your business?
Sure. So first of all, we are a technology development company. And while we will start to sell the first machines manufacture and sell the first machines in South Africa, that really is just to test the market. The real business model behind it is to sell technology licenses to distributors, manufacturers globally. So we will remain small, whereas our distributors will help us to scale and expand. In addition, we have a lot of plans to use the data. So currently there is very little data available about what goes on beneath the ground, where we believe the real magic happens. And so we also believe that the data captured by these machines all over the world will bring amazing insights to farmers globally, to other technology innovators, etc. And so our plan absolutely is also to have a platform, a precision soil management platform that will link into other farming, precision farming platforms, and where we can then also monetize data insights and analytics, etc.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Very good questions. Rory Levy, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm Rory Levy. I'm from Cape Verde, a very small country. Congratulations to the promoters about this idea presentation. I wanted to ask you, do you have smaller scale equipment? Because the idea is genius, but it seems that it's only aiming for big lands and big properties, and you know that in Cape Verde, for instance, it's very small properties, but also in other countries like Guinea-Bissau, you don't have that many big land to plant. So do you have a smaller prototype, perhaps cheaper? Because I understood that the price is $1 million. Or euros?
So the idea is absolutely to, over time, create specialist models, and also that are geared for very specific use cases. Our first model is a bigger model that can be used both for the preparation of open fields and also for regeneration within existing orchards and vineyards. The idea really is that most farmers may not be able to, like with a big harvester, etc., they may not be able to purchase their own, but there will be contractors in most areas that will be able to do so. And then, like we are doing with the South African government and the NGO in Europe, we are hoping to partner with governments, NGOs, and other companies and stakeholders throughout the world to make these machines available to smallholder farmers everywhere. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ray, for the questions. Do we have any other questions from the investors? We'll take one last final questions before the jury of investors will go back and discuss on the 3 startups who have the privilege to pitch tonight. So you still have 10 seconds if you want to ask a question. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. No further questions. So thank you very much, Karin and the team, for an amazing presentation. It was really a pleasure to have you. Please stay online. I will now go back to Fadila Chumba, our great secretary at ABAN, who is going to explain the rest of the process. I think that the 3 startups will be put in separate session while we deliberate, but Fadila, please feel free to confirm.
Hi, good afternoon. Good evening. A wonderful session. Thank you for keeping up with us this evening, and thank you to the startup founders for having the time to share the solution with us today. For the next step, I will please ask the 3 founders to exit the room, and we will be in contact with you for the next step. And for the angel investor currently connected today, we're just going to have we're going to spend a few minutes discussing these 3 founders' solutions and take it from there. And Jeffrey, please confirm that the founders have left the room.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for the session.
Thank you. All right. All right.
I can confirm that they've left the room.
All right. Once again, thanks to all the angel investor present here today. I would like now to ask if you do have any question related to these founders. If you're interested in investing in these ventures, please connect with the ABAN Secretariat, and we will start sharing with you follow-up messages and making sure that we can have as many as possible investors join into the pool of the selected solution from this venture showcase today. Once again, thank you for joining us. The next session related to climate smart agriculture investor workshop will be announced in the next few weeks. And we will also like to hear from you guys. What are the things that you would like us to focus on? And see that we had quite a number of interaction today, but we could also notice that not a lot of angels were very much engaged, and we would like to know what sort of things that they would like to see. At the end of the day, the goal is to really build a strong network of angel investors that will invest in climate smart agriculture focused ventures on the continent. On that note, thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to communicating with you.